Recording in progress.
Roll call has been taken. Public comments. No public comments. Staff updates.
Do have a couple from the fire department.
Okay, go ahead.
One was just on the referendum update. I've been basically going to the common council each evening, when they have common council meeting, and giving them an update as well. Just kind of wanted to go high level. We were able to send the flyers out last week. Also had the listening session. Session one was at UW Stevens Point. Madam Mayor was there, and Commissioner Pinker was able to make it, and Commission President Andy Q was there. It wasn't highly attended. We're hoping to get more attendance at the other ones. And I hope people will come out to actually ask the questions they need or have to make sure we can clarify those for them. Next session, session two, will be at Hotel Marshfield Central Ballroom. That'll be tonight, March 13th. Session three, Community Center Drendel Room, and that'll be March 27th. Done a couple news interviews. We did News Channel 7 and 9, and also working on City of Marshfield Broadcasting. We did one with them, and that's been running. We actually shared it over to our page, and that's been on the broadcast part too. A couple periodicals that we did: Marshfield News Herald, on Focus, Up City Times, and the city newspaper e-newsletter. It's been going out in there. So trying to get the word out the best we can. And then some site visits that I've got planned, Andos Retirement Home and 305 South Chestnut, and then 601 South Cedar Avenue, 606 South Walnut, and then Wildwood Regency Home. We're hoping to get out there over the next week or two, to kind of go over that, and really trying to reach out to some of the community groups that may be interested in this and would want to hear more information. That's kind of all I've got for the referendum update. Training Center RFP, the RFP for the Training Center Master Plan went in front of the DPW on March 3rd, where we completed a presentation and answered any questions they had. The BBW approved the RFP to Common Council consent agenda. It went forward to the consent agenda and it was approved again last Tuesday. So everything is moving forward. We did send out the RFP that went out March 12th. So that we should be starting to see some questions that are coming in. And then some really good news we had for the department, the funding assistance program for our Department of Health that comes from Department of Health. We saw a large increase in that. Last year, we only got $8,000 for that. That actually goes directly into the enterprise account. That money went up just for equipment last year, or for this year, for the 2025 disbursement, it went to $104,711.92. So that's a very large jump, and I think that's something that's very good for the city. And then also the training, that decreased a little bit, but overall we had a much larger part. So we're talking about 106,000 overall. So nice piece of it. But I just wanted to report that back to you and let you know that they're after, they're good for the other thing. So that's all I have for updates.
Very good.
We've got a few as well.
Go ahead.
We have our RFPs are due Monday the 24th for our building. As of yesterday, we haven't gotten any in. I'm told that's not something to worry about yet because there's over a week to get them in. So we hope to have those, have a list of them for you by next meeting, at least. Another update then. For Lexipol, the policies in our department, we can have commissioners added as users so that you can access that right on the computer. To do that, though, we need to have an email that's separate from the one that you use for the fire department. You can only have one policy tied to an email. So if you guys are interested in that, we can do it. Otherwise, we could print them off. Having access electronically is a little bit better because the updates are all in there and looking at the most accurate policy that way. So we have that available if you guys are interested. And finally, the award ceremony will be held tonight for us at 5:30 at the community center. I apologize having that in competition with your listening session, Everett, but we didn't know that at the time, so that we scheduled it. But we look forward to holding that and hope to see you guys there as well. That's all I have.
And I would like you to print all of policies or whatever out and put it in a 3-ring binder that says Marshfield Police in big letters on the cover. I'll cut the cover off and put that cover in my other car.
Okay. I can handwrite them maybe.
No, and the back of my car, cover binder is Marshfield Police.
Good plan.
And I figure if someone's looking to steal something, they'll see that and think, oh, no. The fellow sitting next to you The way the light from the projector, it looks like you have a white headband on half the time.
Actually, a halo.
It actually looks good on you, so don't worry about it.
As long as it's not getting into the eyes, right,
All right.
Well, thank you both. And $106,000 is a nice, sort of a surprise. You know. It's good. I wish I had. Approval of the minutes of the February 1st, 2025 regular meeting.
I would like to move to approve the minutes with one correction. And it's on page 5C. FP 25-014, the last paragraph should read Wisconsin Public Records Compliance Guide.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, and the corrections will be made. Any other comments, corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Dave, are you playing? Not Dave. What am I thinking of?
Steve. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to mute my thing because my dog barks in the background.
It's like home.
I said, yeah.
Good. Fire service and how about news? What is this? We got the news updates, don't we?
That's it.
It's staff.
Oh, I got it. Okay,
Okay.
never mind.
The latest set of fire service line of duty deaths that I received. You'll notice there were 8 cardiac situations, 1 unknown medical, which usually is cardiac or stroke. At the presentation that Chief made up at the university, he mentioned health and fitness of our people. Cardiac issues have become more and more common with fire service. And physical fitness is becoming perhaps as big an issue as cancer prevention. Next item, I put this in for the benefit of Chief Garrick. Michigan State Police has placed a Mustang Mach-E into their fleet. They're using that as a test vehicle, and they use that to patrol state facilities in Lansing. And it does not have the red dome.
Yeah, there wouldn't be enough power in the battery.
But they do have the stop sign on the hood. Santa Fe, New Mexico, going backwards. They were going to transition to a hybrid fleet, but they went back to traditional engines because of increased costs and supply chain. An unfortunate situation for LA Fire. They responded to a crash involving an electric car. They could not save the driver because of the intensity of the flames. South Pasadena, they become apparently the nation's first all-EV fleet. Something I found interesting, in the period 2014 through 2024, 29 police recruits have died during training. Most of these have occurred during physical activities. And then there were also several deaths, I believe it was 3, that were the result of trauma sustained during contact activities. And National Law Enforcement Memorial, of course, that's coming up in May. Just an interesting obscure fact, the first name on the memorial is Sheriff Benjamin Branch of Virginia, died in 1786. And I've got 2 items. The following items are really appropriate because we've been going through policies and procedures. We had 2 incidents where policies and procedures failed. There was an incident in Missouri. It's an urban department. I won't name the department. Our people will know the department by the list of apparatus. They operate 30 firehouses, 15 engine companies, 12 truck companies, 75-foot quints, 5 hook and ladder companies, and then additional assets. Their truck and engines operate with 4 people, plus their engineer, hydrant man, and nozzle man. And initially, they respond 3 engines or trucks, hook and ladder, rescue squad, battalion chief. In this incident, an engine was out of station returning from another call, or a truck was returning from another call. They observed smoke. They went to investigate. They found a 2-story building. The National Institute of Occupational Health and Safety referenced the building as derelict. According to their report, this is, I think, a building that is like a centimeter away from being torn down. Is heavy fire on the 2nd floor, and there is fire engaging the nearby residents. And then as they arrived, they could hear other units being paged out. What happened is they connected to a hydrant. The officer and his nozzle man took a hose to the building, forced entry. They did a minor firefighting effort on the ground floor, went to the 2nd floor. Other units pull up. Somebody does take incident command, but this is where things fell through. The hydrant man in the first truck, he takes a hose line and goes to protect the structure on the side that has the most fire. He doesn't tell the incoming companies there are 2 guys in the building. The first incoming company sees a hose, but it's not moving. They don't know there's 2 guys upstairs. They pull the hose out, bring that to the other side of the building. As they're moving out, the ceiling collapses. Company officers thrown down the stairs and the guy's trapped upstairs. What happens beyond them was ineffective. Mayday call, no one really knew this guy was trapped until he had an open mic and the 911 center, the dispatch center, said something, told everybody else there's something. When they began the search was confused. At one point, they said they found the guy, but they didn't. And after this thing was analyzed, they came up to several concerns. One, the first truck began operations without adequate support. 2 firefighters entered the building without any backup. They basically were freelance. Lack of communication. The guy that took incident command apparently operated without a plan of action. And one of the points they cited was inadequate situational awareness. And focus was on the other building. Situational awareness. Nobody was really assessing the speed at which the fire was going through the abandoned building. And they didn't have any idea the conditions in that building. It wasn't labeled as derelict or in condition. The other point is the first truck that arrived, the normal officer was away at training. The second in command was away at training. Gentleman that was in command had no training experience. So he was not really prepared to handle the situation. Second case occurs in Iowa. Again, I won't name the department. The only information provided in the study was they operate 3 shifts with an authorized strength of 15 firefighters with a minimum of 11 per shift. They operate out of 3 stations. They have mutual aid from Iowa and Illinois. Their situation occurred in a storage silo for corn pellets, feed pellets. There were contractors working to remove 15 to 20 feet of compacted pellets of $1. And apparently, this was a 3rd or 4th contractor that had made an effort to get the stuff out. The silo itself is 94 feet tall, 24 feet in diameter. The guys that were working in there, they left hatches. They came back the next morning, there's smoke. They looked at it, plant management, the contractors looked at it, they called the fire department. Now, at this point, things went well. They established a command post. They have a plan of action. Due to difficulty in accessing the fire, they modified their plans. Their plans were fluid. They were doing everything right. They had the plan and they modified that per conditions. Nothing was working. So their next plan was to get 2 firefighters on a catwalk, which is about 78 feet over, at an access point. Put an aerial ladder up, take a hose from the aerial ladder with 2 firefighters. They put the hose down the hatch. No nozzle on the hose, just dropping water. And they were flowing water on pellets. They were told to move the hose to another location, get more coverage. As they moved the hose, they observed a puff of smoke, and then there was an explosion. They figured it was a dust explosion when they moved the hose. They stirred up dust and possibly an expanding vapor explosion. It knocked one firefighter through the hatch onto the pellets at the bottom. The other firefighter fell almost 80 feet to the ground, was deceased. And what did they find? Well, the hatch should have been closed when the contractors left to keep oxygen out. It was obviously a dust explosion, but the firefighters really didn't have any information about the potential of the dust explosion. The storage facility didn't effectively communicate that. There was insufficient pre-planning for the silo fire. Apparently insufficient planning at the facility. And again, hazards hadn't been adequately communicated. And their recommendations, training on hazards of fires in different types of silos. I found out there's 3 different types of storage silos. Apparently, for this type of silo, the recommended method would have been to close all the hatches, let the fire consume the available oxygen, then go in and take care of it. And they began a training program on the hazards associated with the silos. They actually had 6 of those at this location. They developed pre-incident plans, and the recommendation was to use a National Fire Protection Association marking system of the silos to warn people of the hazards of dust explosions. But again, communication. But in this case, they had the plan, but it worked up to the point. And then the last item, it's printed on the next page. Next page, you have the Florida Fire Department, or a Florida Sheriff's Office got hit with a discrimination lawsuit promotion, and they lost $2 to $15 million. Everything is detailed there. That's it, Andy.
Thank you. I didn't know dust would explode. My house is a great danger. Kidding. The next item is a request from the fire department to begin implementation of a program that would match firefighters with the SWAT team of the police department. Because those typically have incidents where injuries are likely, we want trained people to participate. And I assume they're wearing vests and helmets and stuff. I don't know that you need to spend a lot of time describing it. I think we all know pretty well what it is you intend to do. And you're looking for permission to move forward, so.
Correct. We'd be looking for permission today just to basically look into the program, make sure it's something that's going to be good for both sides. We've already done a lot of the research on that, working with both of them. I did bring Lieutenant Dave McNamara. If this program does move forward, he would also be the team leader. He oversees our RTF team. So if anybody would have any questions about this part, we could certainly ask questions with Nate, and he'd be happy to answer those for you.
This is not an uncommon arrangement in cities across the country, is that right?
That is correct. Fairly common. Wisconsin Rapids has a team. Wausau has a team. What we're looking to do is, I think now they utilize Wisconsin Rapids. That's a long distance for them to have to travel if they've got something where they've got media. So this would help us to go ahead and maybe close that loop for them.
Other than equipment and hours training, what's the cost?
That's something we're looking to pursue over the next month. I know Nate has put a lot of figures together. I won't have that until probably April to really have the final numbers of what that's going to look like. That's where we just wanted to make sure that we had permission to look into this program so that we could pursue those numbers.
I think we need a motion to say go ahead, but I think we need to put a condition on it. We say go ahead. Well, you've got to come to us with the proposal anyway.
We were planning on bringing that back in April, and we'd bring you the full proposal with all figures and costs with it.
Right, okay. A motion to give them permission to go ahead?
I motion it.
I'll be the second on that.
Okay, we have a motion. And Bill, you got a comment to make?
Nate, how many hours of training?
That is currently, once again, being researched. A lot of it has been up for debate. 10, 12 years ago, it was very difficult to implement one of these teams. Things have changed over the last 10 years, and it's been much easier to put together the program. That is something I'm currently working with Lieutenant Hamel, SWAT commander from the PD on. We've discussed minimum amount of hours for initial training, and then what we would require to maintain that on a yearly basis. And we've got some rough ideas, and we're going off of a lot of things that Wisconsin Rapids utilizes, as well as Marathon County SWAT team. So we're trying to find a happy middle there and a right fit for us.
Okay, question I'll direct to Jim here. Is it common practice that the SWAT paramedics are armed?
I don't think it is.
Not as much anymore. I think it used to be more common. Nick, you might know more about that more recently. I haven't looked into it in a number of years.
Most of the SWAT paramedics in the area, the Thames medics, are not armed. Okay, and that is because up until April of last year, the state finally passed legislation allowing EMS providers and Thames paramedics to carry firearms. So now it is legal to do that. But we have been in discussions with that. I've talked with a team leader from Marathon County, and they're looking into it, as well as a few others in this area. I've been in contact with various assistant chiefs and leaders throughout the state and the fire service. And it just came about like less than a year ago. So this is something they are pursuing now.
So there's no, really, we don't have any depth of background.
Correct. Yeah, this just became allowable about April of 2024. So we're in some discussions at that, what that would look like, what the costs would be, the trainings, things like that. So that's something we are researching as well.
Okay, so thank you.
Currently, our team trains eight hours a month. So it's not a heavy lift.
I've got a question. I've actually got two questions. Is our SWAT team in the past has had a separate set of physical requirements? Is that still true at PD now? And then also any EMS that would be part of this would be subject to the same minimal physical requirements above the job function test, right?
We do have the separate physical requirements still. And I don't know that you guys have researched what you're doing, because your job may be a little bit different than what our team is. And I don't know that we've looked into that yet, but.
We've had some very brief discussions, Lieutenant Hamel and I, in regards to that. There's been nothing set in stone. I figured that would be some more discussions to come up, and a lot of that would probably be well above my pay grade as well.
And I think it has to, that would have to do with where we land on if you're armed and what your job as the Thames would be in relation to what our SWAT members would be. So I think there's some layers we have to peel back there, but you can handle that.
I do have just one follow-up. How often have we actually requested Thames support from Wisconsin Rapids?
I don't think we've ever requested. They're just part of that team. We don't work with Wisconsin Rapids very much. We work with Wood County, and that brings us to Wisconsin Rapids, but we haven't requested them specifically, I recall.
That's all I got for now. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? We have a motion on the table to approve the fire department going forward with exploring this idea in conjunction with the police department. If there are no further questions, all in favor of the motion to approve going forward, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. I think I've talked to the two chiefs or commented to them that this is the kind of thing that is, I think, a model of collaboration between departments, and that's important. And I don't want to make it a salesman's thing, but that the council and the public will appreciate the collaboration between the departments. So thank you. A review of 2024 Fire Education Week Fire Weight Plan Your Escape, presented by Lieutenant Miller.
And with
Thank you.
I'll go over one little brief thing here. With the promotion of Jonathan Ullman, the new chief in charge of Blue Chip, I think Lieutenant Zachary Miller has taken over the responsibilities of the public education coordinator for the department. That's quite a big task in our department to take on that piece of it. And we sincerely appreciate everything he's doing. I've asked him to present our fire prevention activities from 2024 Fire Prevention Week. That week was fairly successful. We've been back in the schools after COVID. If you recall, COVID-19, we literally weren't able to get to school during that time. And it took quite a process to get ourselves back in there and continue to work that relationship. So I'm going to turn it over to Zach with no further ado, and I'll allow him to take over the information here. Go ahead.
All right, good morning, everybody. Lieutenant Miller, I've been with the fire department for about 10 years now, and almost the entire time I've been a part of this program. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I think it's very important to our department and community. So I'm pretty happy to be here and share a little bit of what we did in 2024 with you guys. Currently, our community consists of 9 department members. And that's not in addition to Chief Mueller, who sits in our meetings, Deputy Chief Ryan Barnes, and then Deputy Chief Ullman. They kind of provide us with inputs on the ideas that we come up with, and then they allow us to go forward and implement those ideas and give us guidance along the way. So it's really a joint effort between the line firefighters and everybody within this department. So what do we do?
2 Zacharys in that group.
Yes, they're pretty awesome guys. We're both very passionate about what they do. For what we do, I'm sure many of you are aware that every October there's Fire Prevention Week, and October is Fire Prevention Month. This last year was October 6th through the 12th. We used to do all our presentations in that 1 week. That got pretty strenuous with all the elementary schools in our district, so we spread it out over 2 weeks. Just allows us to better prepare and present our materials. So the goal for that week in those presentations is to present to the kindergarten through 6th grade and do their individualized fire presentations. Stem the message for that year. It's on like a 4-year rotation where it goes through. So this last year in all the schools, including the parochials, we reached nearly 3,500 students in our schools, which was up by, I'm going to say like 800 since we last gave a presentation on this, 2022. So, schools are doing good, kids are there, and a lot of positive feedback. So preparing for these presentations obviously takes a lot of time because they're individualized each group. used to have one giant get together for the school, and there was clowns and all kinds of weird stuff happening there. It was kind of hard to tailor the presentations to a specific age group to help them get the most out of it. So obviously we have meetings. Currently, every other month we have a meeting, and then if we have a big event like Fire Prevention Week, we will meet every month, make sure we're ready to go. So obviously a lot of brainstorming and developments, coming up with the ideas. We do create the grade-specific presentations now at this stage. And then we have, obviously we have to practice, so we're proficient in each of the different scripts and themes for each of the presentations. Contacting all the schools, scheduling. Pretty sure all of you have dealt with scheduling at some point, and that can be pretty chaotic, getting every school the day they want and the time frame they want. And then ordering and receiving the fire safety materials, organizing and delivering those. We deliver age-specific and grade-specific materials to each school, so teachers can pass those out, so the students can kind of learn about and review what we're discussing with them. So now I'm going to go into what we do for each age group. So the first age group is kindergarten to first grade. They're really small kids. They can easily be scared. And the main message we want to get through to them is we're your friends. We're there to help. So don't run away when you see this big scary person coming to help you when you're scared. We also do a walk around with the fire engine. I know, with PFAS and things like that, we have taken steps to ensure that firefighter wearing their gear, the gear is freshly cleaned, and there's a good perimeter between the firefighter and the students to prevent any cross-contamination in these situations. So then we'll go outside, we'll do a fire engine tour, let the kids get up in the fire engine, they really love it. And then we'll move on. So second and third grade, this is probably one of the most fun presentations that we do. We actually create a dialogue between Freddie the fire truck, or Ava, the ambulance, with one of our fire engines, focusing on that year's safety message. So this year is smoke detectors. So we'll actually come up with a skit. The operator of the fire engine or the ambulance will be behind a curtain or in another room, and they'll come out. And we'll be like, hey, somebody's missing. You guys tell us who's missing here? And then the fire truck will come up like, oh, hey guys. And the kids just go crazy. It's awesome. They all get into it. It's very interactive, very fun. And that is a very time-consuming process, coming up with the individual scripts for that.
One thing I'd like to point out, with Freddie the fire truck and also Ava the ambulance, those were all done through donations. That was something that was a collaborative effort with the community, and being able to bring that all together so that they could do that. They're not an inexpensive item, so it was very nice of people to be able to donate for that, and then we can utilize it, as you can see right here in this educational opportunity. So that was my hand side.
Yeah. Any questions about that portion? Next one's super fun. So we come up with we do a message of the year, present that information, and then we have like a kind of review on, this is called Kahoot. Right, so most of the students, they have their own iPad now in the school district, so we can put together this Kahoot, put a code up on the screen, and they'll be into this test. Now, whoever wins this test, which is a review of basic, EMS and like fire safety things, gets to have the grand prize, which is either tying a firefighter in the face or slamming a firefighter, and it varies year to year, depending on what we do. So this last year, engineer Lucas Friedland went to the school to help out, even though he's not on the committee, which is something I really love about this. A lot of the department has buy-in, and many people want to participate. I don't know if his son actually won the Kahoot, but they selected him since his dad was there, and he got to pie his dad in front of all his friends. And you want to talk about reaching kids and making activities, getting through. I mean, this is probably one of the best moments that we have every year, and everybody just loves it. Unless we have to get cheap up there because we're short. He's got other places to be. Usually, they're good stuff. Okay, sixth grade. Obviously, they've been dealing with us every year if they've been in the Marshfield School District. So they've heard all these messages and kind of get bored with it. So we kind of call this the culminating event. So what we'll do, I'll just go ahead here. I don't want to slide you over. We'll do a fire growth demonstration, a real short video. We're not going to watch it today. It just shows how quickly a fire can go. Kind of gives them an idea, like, this is why we teach you all the things we've taught you. And after we watch that video, we go outside and get hands-on. So they can pull some water, and go in the fire engines, they can pick up like the extrication tools and stuff like that. All very closely monitored for safety. maybe they'll roll some hose and stuff like that, and they really enjoy weather permitting, getting outside, getting some hands on some equipment. Once again, we're just out there making memories and, you know, potentially recruiting future firefighters, which is the goal of this committee as well. So who did we reach? Okay, so we went to 8 schools, 36 separate presentations, 95 classes, K through 6. Like I said before, over 3,500 students. It was a busy year. Then we get a lot. How do we count this? So 3 personnel per presentation, 6 if we're going to grant because there's such a big school. We usually do simultaneous, or we'll do 2 separate days there. 9 to 10 days of presentations. 30 spots need to be filled. Each presentation is 30 minutes, and we like to have 5 to 10 minutes between. And then 100% coverage by the committee personnel. Just another example of committee, the how committed personnel on a committee are. Everyone has a lot of fun with it, and like I said, we get buy-in from people who aren't even on the committee, so that just makes it even better. So these are some of the things that we get annually in our after-action review, or when we're all done with some little survey. Students, thank you, a lot of thank yous, they loved it. Informational and engaging, which is what our goal is. Best presentation they ever had. I mean, those are some pretty high remarks from grade school kids. So really take this program on with it. I think it's working. What else do we do? We're doing more participation in community events. So we were down at Dairy Fest. We set up a little thing with the trucks. We take that chunk of chestnut there. We have a lot of interaction. We have bubbles, chalk. We have the robots out if we have enough staffing. People come by with, you know, helmets, badges, stuff like that. Play music. Up City Days, seen us down there. We have our displays down there. Maple Fall Fest is huge. I mean, it just keeps growing. Last year we gave out almost 1,500 helmets that day to kids. We almost went through our entire supply of helmets for that year. And then last year was our first year at the Central Wisconsin State Fair. We plan on building on that experience and just being out there in the community and hopefully having good, positive interaction. During those times, we do some safety raffles, we give away some bikes and stuff like that. We're able to get out safety messages to kids and families. We had a lot of questions. We had our safety trailer up at the fairground last year, and we had a lot of questions from the adults. Smoke detectors, CO detectors, things like that. And then we're looking at possibly having a Citizens Fire Academy in the future. That's all I got for you today. Any questions?
I have no questions, but it's very impressive. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, we have huge buy-in from management and from the union. It's a great committee, great thing to be a part of, and everybody on that committee wants to do their stuff. Someone is supposed to do, and that speaks volumes for the things we accomplish every year.
And I meet with the superintendent basically once a month, and he has positive things to say about the program.
Oh, great. That's good. Good feedback. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Really was, having done science presentations for pre-K.
Sure.
3rd grade, I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Grades 5 through 12,
Yeah, you've seen that all.
I've seen it. And great.
We're able to suck them
Great
in.
job that you guys.
Probably mostly because they're getting out of their math classes. But, you know, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Take any edge we can.
Thank you.
Actually, you should screw some math.
Okay, we can talk about like tricks and loss.
Yeah.
Little math and chemistry.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Yes, great stuff. Thank you. And the fair was absolutely fantastic.
Good.
I walked around on Tuesday and almost everyone I walked around said, have they ever been here before?
Yeah.
No. And that was actually good because people actually recognized something different. And yeah, all your efforts, everything. When I was a Girl Scout in Stratford, we did the fire prevention week. We had posters put up in the different stores and whatever. And so that's part of my heart. So thank you for continuing this. And I can just imagine the kids' excitement. Oh gosh, yeah.
Come on out or come say hi to us. We like it whenever you want.
Oh yeah, that's great. And then the little scary thing, when you put the costume on to have the little kids, that's dynamic. Absolutely.
We'll give you guys comments too if you want. Yeah. Have a good rest of the day, everybody.
I'm glad Madam Mayor, I'm really glad you brought up tariff. That's something we've been really trying to get out to. One thing that we know that we can engage with easily is by being present. appreciate being their presence there. A lot of times people can tend to go to the fair, but maybe not stop to hear. They have just a little bit of interaction with us, and that may lead to further conversations on how we can help the smoke detectors or whatever other fire prevention programs. So we're always working on something.
Yeah, great. Wonderful.
That
Next item up on the agenda is approval of fire department bills. You have before you, bills dated February 26th. Are there any questions with those? Okay, we didn't have a set of bills passed out this morning dated March 12th. Are there any questions about those bills?
No.
Andy, Steve?
No, I don't have none.
Okay, this requires a roll call vote. Lori, call the roll, please.
Finger,
Yes.
Gershman,
We didn't have a motion. Sir.
oh yeah, here's right ahead. We need a
Steve,
motion in
you
a
make the
second.
motion?
Yep, I'll motion to accept.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Now, Finger,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Gershman,
Yes.
and Keo said yes when he walked out.
We now have approval of the police department bills. We have a set of bills dated February 26. Are there any questions about those bills?
I got just a couple of questions. Redoing the squad for the canine, I mean, I don't ever remember it being that expensive. Has the prices gone up a lot as much as it looks like?
Yeah, that was the one for our new K9. If you recall, we had the detective vehicle that we converted into the K9. So that price was to convert the F-150 into a K9 vehicle. And that cost is going to be coming out of, I think almost entirely out of the K9 fund. So the cost of them, that's all the equipment.
So my follow-up to that is how much money do you have left in that fund?
We're probably, I haven't looked at it a little bit, but I think right around 30,000, 20 to 30,000.
All right. I was just curious because I know when we do a squad, it wasn't nearly that much money, was it?
It's actually pretty consistent with what our new squads are coming in at. If it's what we're budgeting for. I think that was about 16, and our regular squads are in the neighborhood of 14 to 15,000.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
We then have a set of bills from the police department dated on March 12. Are there any questions about those bills? Okay, there being no question, I ask for a motion to approve the two sets of bills submitted by the police department.
I'll move.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Finger,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Gershman,
Yes.
Keo.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The bills have been covered.
Oh, you got a vote.
Yeah,
Yes,
we did
you're
vote.
done.
Tell you what, you think the bills are high now, wait until the tariffs take effect. You're gonna be amazed. And apparently no one in Washington reads or understands history. No one has ever won a tariff war. Tariffs have caused wars, but you've never seen a tariff war where one side is won and the other is lost. Not the way it works. All right. Request to transfer, fire department activities, training reports, and so on. Just the highlights, please.
We got over the past month, the department experienced a slight but consistent increase in the call volume. The current calls continue to present issues, and these require our team to adapt and manage resources effectively. Our staff continues to do that, and we sincerely appreciate all the efforts from police and fire commissioner, continued support of that. The other thing we had this month, emergency management training in Wisconsin Rapids. As you know, emergency management has been kind of a bigger highlight for us in the department, and we are continuing to go ahead and pursue how we're going to do that emergency management We actually put together an emergency management committee, and we have Deputy Chief Barnes, who oversees that committee, has got a background in emergency management. So he's been really kind of pursuing some of those things, and that'll be something we'll be talking about a little bit later on. But those are the key updates I wanted to provide. I'd be happy to answer any questions any of you may have.
Could you tell me what emergency Lieutenant Barnes has managed?
What part of emergency management? I'm sorry?
You said that he had experience in emergency management. What?
He has a background in it, meaning that he has a degree specifically for emergency management. He went to UW Green Bay and actually pursued his degree in emergency management. So he's got a background as in, has worked with it. I mean, in that part of it.
A lot of book learning, but he doesn't really know how to do it.
I would say it's a role where we're going to continue to pursue. OJT would be the principal part of that one on the job. But we do have, I'm going to stress on this one too. We have in the past worked with the EOC Emergency Operations Center, and we continue to build that out. We've also taken over certain parts of our IAPs, the incident action plans that we put together each year. So we do have experience in the emergency management sector. There's things that we're finding out that we aren't doing in the community, and Brian is bringing those to he'll be bringing those to the EOC today, and he continues to bring those items forward. So
That's fine.
definitely a continued problem.
Just having fun.
I've got a few questions.
Go ahead.
On February 3rd, water supply meeting for the Royal Hangar at the airport. What is going on with that right
Well, what I'm going to do, Brian has really been in attendance to those. That's kind of his area of expertise as the Deputy Chief of Fire Prevention. I'll let him speak on that topic.
With the rail hangar, they purchased a new jet that doesn't quite fit in their old hangar. It's quite large. And they're in the process now of building an entire new hangar on the airport. The issue we have is due to the size of the plane, size of the building, all that, it's required to be sprinklered and everything down there. So we're in the process now of figuring out how to get a water main back there, fire hydrant back there, everything else, because they have to supply the water for the hangar and everything. So that's where the meetings is kind of sitting now, and they're in the process now of figuring out how they're going to afford it, when they're going to be able to get everything in. The building's already being built. If you drive down there, you will see a very large skeleton of a structure going up there. They're moving along pretty quick on it, getting it up because they want to have get that planning put inside, as soon as they can. So, but that's kind of where it's staying right now.
now? Okay, they're gonna have to put in a big main?
8-inch,
Okay.
only an 8-inch main.
Are they running it up from Central?
Nope, they're running it off of the corner of Whitman and 29th.
That's a 10-inch main, right?
That's an 8-inch coming into a 10-inch right in that area. It's all that there, but they did, I had the water department actually go out and I had them test those hydrants at them intersections. And that hydrant actually came in at the highest amount of water that we could get, which more than surpasses what we're required for a sprinkler system and for our fire suppression.
Right.
So that's where it's going out. And then there's a lot of infrastructure that is being proposed right now for the future down there. So
Gotta have hydrants in there.
On the 6th, BBP training. It says Burns and BBP training.
Are you aware of it? The Burns, I can get back to you on that. I'm
That's
sorry. I don't-
put on the schedule, but I'm not sure.
I'm not 100%. I want to say that's an EMS training, and I can definitely report back next meeting.
Okay.
that would be EMS for sure.
We are trying to get away from acronyms. We heard you loud and clear.
Okay, so Steve's not here this morning, but does anybody know about the Lairdale representative being here? Be having problems?
No, I think that's more one where they stop in and just basically touch base with us.
Okay.
That's just a visit, but they come in on a routine basis.
Okay. And then going down to the 18th, Chief Barnes and I were both at the tabletop exercise also. From this end of the world, it's interesting. Chief Barnes, myself, there were two representatives from Three Oaks, and Police Chief from Stratford, and Police Chief from Spencer. And Brian, good workshop.
It was a good workshop. It was an eye opening. It was interesting when you have a collaboration with so many areas, because Marathon's so large, so many different entities that were involved in it, to see what their project, what they can do, what they can't do, or what each different areas are. Myself going in there, I kind of spoke up a handful of times out there, and our EOC, we are developed here in the city. We are a lot farther advanced than a lot of other communities. Because I'm pretty hounding on the whole emergency management stuff of trying to I want to be ahead of the game instead of falling behind. So by far, when I look at our EOC, we've got a large collaboration with Jody and Travis and them are all there. Our mayor's involved in it. And we got a pretty large collaboration. You go to a lot of emergency management places, they have 1, 2, maybe 3 people. That's it. That's their entire emergency operations. It's 3 to 4, 2 to 3 people. So,
Brian, just to piggyback on that too, recently this members of the school have joined our EOC, and that's been a great collaboration with us. We've got, it reaches out to several people in the community, and it builds a really good foundation. And if something bad happens, that we have this kind of.
yeah, and we got a lot of collaboration, not only internally but externally. I got ham radio operators, their clubs here in case their communications completely goes down. We've got a way of communicating. They come in, they've got their own antenna system. They got antenna system on the roof here. They got portable systems, everything else. So we got Wood County, actually their emergency management group and dispatch and all that, they are involved in it. We activate REOC for a major incident in town. I've got 52 people involved in this, not including a lot of outside resources that don't come in all the time. At colleges, the campus, the UW system, all of them, they're all kind of involved in it. They all get the emails and updates and all that as we continue on. So we built this up quite a bit over the years. So, and hopefully keep continuing building it. That's why we added a couple more people on that are on shifts right now, because eventually I want to walk out of here and I'm sure that this is we're leading to the future, and they continue on into the future with this.
I think that's a big piece too with emergency management. That is really when we're at our worst in our community. That's what we're truly. Tornadoes,
Rain derailments, major floods.
There's just a bunch of different. We continue to build that out.
And I'll piggyback on that. Absolutely, it's a really good training. The room is full, which is really great. And we all have to give a little report. Some give more than they need to, but that's okay. And congratulations on all of us being here, because without what you do, we wouldn't be here. Obviously, we have a buy-in, so this is very exciting. We have a meeting this morning at 10 o'clock, matter of fact.
You're not gonna make it.
Well, I think one of the things that was brought out, problems with various levels of healthcare and problems, everything from assisted living facilities all the way up to hospital facilities. I had asked a question about communicating with non-English speaking populations. When you look at it, we have, at least in this area, Spanish speaking population. We have an older Amish population, which might have some difficulties. Town of McMillan, Rod Bauer was there. In response to my question, he said, no, we don't have problems. There's kind of a good working relationship. As you move into some of the other areas, you may find several more languages with the difficulty to communicate. Something was brought up by the people in the Wausau area was in a long-term power outage. How do you provide shelters for, in their case, a very large homeless population? And how do you get the word out as to where the shelters are? Something I found confusing, I guess. They weren't looking, the people they were dealing with similarly also area. We're looking at, oh, we need shelters now, rather than looking at how we plan for shelters when we need them. So looking at long-term planning and how we get that information out. And there are people talking, oh, we can use social media. We can use TV. Well, the homeless population, and even some populations, the general citizenry, they may not be using Facebook. They may not be using other social media platforms. You may have an older population that for a variety of reasons is spending money for their cable connections. So how do you effectively communicate with them?
And this was an issue when I was in Columbus, Ohio, which is bigger than Milwaukee is it. They found that the only way to communicate with the homeless that was effective was to communicate with 1% of the homeless because they talk to each other. And that's about the only way you can get a message across the whole of the whole group. Anything more, Bill?
No. I did have one update on the bloodborne. The VPP means bloodborne pathogen training. I apologize, I had to look at it in context. It goes along with the training for that day, which was burns. So we do a lot of EMS training throughout the year. We distribute that throughout the year. They can meet the refresher.
See what you get for using acronyms?
It sounds to me, it's like I can understand exactly what you're all going through. We will do a better job of trying to make sure we call it. Yeah, well, better baked potatoes too.
Like the worst of that, well, I won't count the military, but the worst of that I've ever experienced is for HUD. HUD has acronyms for, I don't know, they're just thousands of them, and they all know. All right, fire department's done. Request to transfer the responsibility of the emergency department budget, 10 CIP, from the police department to the fire department. And what is all that about?
Actually, Chief Mueller is going to present it, and it ties in very well with the conversation we just had.
You bet. Basically, I'm requesting approval from the Police and Fire Commission to move emergency management budget from the police department to the fire department. With that said, while the police department currently oversees the storm warning sirens, the fire department plays a more comprehensive role in the emergency management side of things, being the EOC. We also do the incident action plan. Those kind of the ones that are behind that part of it. It takes a collaborative effort to make all that come together. So I don't want to say that we're the ones that are like, we're the ones that take care of that piece of it, but everybody else has to contribute on that. The fire department is responsible for managing the emergency operations center and developing incident action plans throughout the year again. Additionally, we coordinate storm shelters and work closely with emergency management to ensure well-organized response to emergencies. And given these responsibilities, shifting the budget to the fire department will align funding with operational oversight, improving efficiency and enhancing our ability to manage emergency preparedness and response. With that being said, I would gladly answer any questions you may have.
So between the two chiefs, you have determined that the center of the issue resides more with fire department than police department.
That's exactly it. And it's becoming more and more clunky when, when we prepare this budget, we're reaching out to the fire department because they're the only ones drawing out of the budget because they're running the emergency management. We have kept up with our schedule with the replacing the emergency sirens, but that's really been our only play in this whole thing. And so I think it would be less headaches for the fire department to go through us for everything to come out of that budget. And it just seems like it's a more appropriate fit.
Okay, I had heard this idea before, somewhere along the way, one of you talked about it. But I never heard CIP before. What does that mean?
The only thing that's in the CIP is the emergency sirens. And you'll see in this presentation today, later today, that it's about 19,000, and we've just about got to where we could take a break. I think we buy one this year and next year. And then I believe there's a break for a few years where there's 3.
It's 2033 is the next one.
So the sirens are replaced on a cycle. think it's a 15-year life expectancy. And then,
Yeah, that's about what I understand too.
and that technology is becoming outdated too, so it'd be interesting to see where that goes in the future. It may not be an issue for us in the future, so.
All right, so you want approval to make that change, is that correct? And that would require a motion, a second, a vote. Someone want to make a motion to approve that change? Steve, thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion, a second. Bill, were you offering to second or did you have something?
I'll let the second go up there.
Right. Any comments or questions about the motion to move emergency management budget and CIP from the police department to the fire department? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying, oh, wait a minute, we gotta have a roll call. Let's go.
Baker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Hirschman,
Yes.
Keo.
Andy, may I just go back to the fire department reports for a second?
Yeah, sure.
As some of the folks in the fire department know, paramedics were at my house Monday morning. And Jenna Conrad was one of the paramedics. And afterwards, I got thinking about something that FDNY recently promoted a female battalion chief to the position of deputy chief. Now, she's the highest ranking female officer in New York City. I thought, well, and of course we know that the chief in Los Angeles also female. I got to be wondering, how do we compare nationally with female firefighters? We are above the national average. National average is around 10 to 11%, depending upon who you're talking to. And if you take our group, we're up to about 15%. I would say, yeah, which I think is really commendable.
And in the fire service and the police service both, moving up requires experience and that requires time. Yeah, I noticed as I looked through this, look at the pictures. And my wife looks.
So is mine.
How many women are there? Oh, there are a lot. Anyway.
You even get to read the report first.
Yeah.
Oh, I get to read the report by the second, third, or fourth time.
No, all right, we go on to the next item on the agenda, which is 13, and that's policy from police department. And a fire, I'm sorry. Oh, I saw the word policies and saw police. The problem is I don't have my reading. Now, if you want to deal with these one at a time, and Bill, I know that's your tendency. I'm gonna have to put my reading glasses.
I'll go with the entire package. Well, the only note that I had was on procedure 206. I had made some suggestions that was simply from the perspective of someone who's done professional writing through conferences and so forth. And Paul and I had a little discussion, and Paul convinced me that my suggestions were already taken account of by our excellent report.
Can we approve these on, or do we have to do them one at a time?
Well, we can do the packet.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
I would like a motion to approve the policies.
Well, you need two motions, one for policies, one for procedures.
All right, then that's fine, make it.
I move to approve policy 908, 913, 916, 1009, 1012, and 1041.
Is there a second to the motion to approve the policies?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments or questions? I suppose we need a roll call on that one.
Pinker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Hirschman,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. And then, Bill, you want to make the second motion?
Sure, I move that we approve procedures 206 and 403.
Second to the motion.
Seconded.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the procedures, the two procedures. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Pinker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Hirschman,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. They are approved. Police Department activities, training reports and correspondence.
Thank you. In reviewing the activities we have listed in your packets, they seem to me to be pretty self-explanatory, but I'm certainly open to any questions that you might have before placing them on file.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners present?
I just got one question on the training for defensive tactics and such. Are you the only two in the department that can teach that class? I was just curious if we had any.
I do teach defensive and arrest tactics. However, this one was actually run, I believe, by Lead Officer Abel. And Travis and I attended with shift 1, I believe. So we were just one of the ones in the group, and I don't know why we're so special to be singled out.
Yeah, I was just thinking that'd be a real opportunity for someone else to teach the class. It's good that you observed it, but the way it sounded when I read it, so thank you.
I agree that others should teach that. So.
All right. Don't seem to be any additional questions or comments, so we will accept your report. Review and approve Fire Department 2025-29 Capital Improvement Plan. Do you want to speak to that at all, or should we just go forward with?
I think that's the fire department for 15.
I want to do them in the other order.
All right. I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Okay. In our capital improvement, Chief Miller, do you want me to address the sirens or?
I can take over that.
Okay, so that brings with our capital improvement, we have basically 2 items, but probably the lion's share of the money. So we have our vehicles, which we will just be buying patrol vehicles this year. This is not a year that we would purchase or replace a detective vehicle, so it'll be 3 patrol vehicles. And the second half of the building CIP, so that's $5 million. Those are the 2 items that we have in the packet and that are in our CIP as pertains to the police department. I'm open to any questions regarding those items.
Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Jody, is that a misprint in terms of how long we keep the detective vehicles?
I wish it was. Right now we have, we used to rotate our detective vehicles every 2 years, but it starts with our undercover detectives, and then it goes to a general investigator until that cycles through. And if we do 3 years, by the time we get rid of our vehicle, it's about 18 years old. I don't think that that's a sustainable plan. We did switch to that last year at the request of council. And I wonder if there was a misunderstanding that we were buying a new vehicle and selling it every other year. So we went from, I think it was a 15 or so year rotation all the way up to about an 18 year.
What I'd like to see is a schedule of those vehicles, just so I have a better understanding how old they are. And I would think the rest of the commission would like to get an idea on that too.
Yep, we can get a list of vehicles right now. Since we've changed, even since I've been chief, we were buying a vehicle every year. I think interim chief Zepp switched it to every other year. And then, last year, we switched it to every 3 years. So we'll get you the list of where we have now and when we would schedule on getting rid of the current vehicles.
And then you're just taking a guess at the 5% increase for vehicles. Is that right?
That's what we were directed to. That's a citywide direction, is to anticipate a 5% each year. I hope they're aiming high.
Is there anybody moving out of the police market?
I'm sorry,
Are there any manufacturers who are moving out of the police market?
right now, as far as patrol vehicles, I believe we have, Dodge. I'm not sure that Ford is gonna be offering, to be honest, I don't know for sure, but I think Chevy has a couple of options, but okay. Some departments are using, non-pursuit rated vehicles. I don't know that I'm a big fan. We have done that in the past, but I tend to think that pursuit rated vehicles are probably the better way to go.
I have just one question. You're doing the V6 in the Durangos now, not the 8. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
And you're finding the V6s to be acceptable?
Yeah, I really did like the V8s, except they kept breaking on us, they kept blowing up. We have not had the same reliability issues that we had with, it's a better reliability with the V6s. And as far as the pickup and power, it's okay. So.
And on the sirens, I'm assuming these are bid out.
So that's, I don't even know, actually, I'd have to look up at the manufacturer that we get. I believe it's the same manufacturer that we get every year.
Because the price per siren based upon the CIP would be $9,500.
Right, and then installation.
Yeah. So is that a bid item, or is that just solicit?
We don't go out to bid for them. I don't think there's many manufacturers that make them, to be honest.
Yeah,
so I think we just purchase.
Yeah, because Federal and Wheeling are, I think, the only ones.
Right, Federal's what this is, I think it's under Federal. Because I just talked to them at the conference this week. Right. So yeah, we got to come to your city this year.
Okay.
Follow it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be something that we could maybe look between those two to get the best deal, but I think they're pretty comparable.
Okay.
Anything else? We need to approve your CIP for the next year. And we need to do that with a roll call because it involves money. We have one. Just make up.
Just pick somebody.
Bill and Steve.
Bill and Steve.
Yep.
Pinker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Hirschman,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Now we have the same with the police department, fire department. I reversed. Yes, fire department. What have you got to say?
I'd like to just say thank you for allowing me to present. I've got a couple items in here that I'd like to go through and explain. Some of it is mostly standard. And then I think we've already covered the sirens, which are at the end. The only thing I had miscited on the sirens in mind was I thought we had one in 2026 and 2027. Looks like we're doing one this year, and then we'll have one in 2026. So ours could be reduced by 19,000, but I know we've already kind of covered that piece of it. When you look at ours from the top down, engine for replacement loose equipment, that is actually a carryover. We purchased the engine in 2024 because it gave us, I believe it was $156,000 savings. We now have 121,000 would be loose equipment, which takes care of everything else would be on the apparatus. That'll be a carry forward on that one. That's carrying through.
In that case, you don't have the apparatus yet.
Engine won't be here till 2027.
Yeah.
There's about a 4-year lead. You have to 4-year.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Kind of a problem we have in the overall industry is just that issue by itself. The fire alarm replacement, again, our fire alarm is getting to the end of service life and we need to replace that. We kicked it off 1 year. It was in 2025. We moved some things around last year and moved it over to 2026. We have the annual training center improvement, which is part of our bigger piece, 18,750, and the other 6,007 or 250 comes out of the EMS Enterprise Fund. One thing I did put in for 2026 was a continuation of what we talked about in the past. And that was basically last November, I started talking about staffing and infrastructure for the city. We are starting to see some very far extremes in our city as far as getting out in response times, meaning we're 6-10 minutes out on the farthest extreme. And when we look at NFPA 1710 staffing study, they can tell us that's something we need to work on. So as a fire chief, I'd be asking for a fire department staffing and facility study. And I'd gladly take any questions anybody might have on that piece. Moving forward, we're looking at a lift gate for car 6 and a roller rack. That's something that came through our insurance, and what they're doing is basically stating that that would help with like back injuries, things like that, and something we can alleviate. They would probably go ahead and put money towards that. Then we get a grant from them for 6,750, and they would definitely put the money towards that. The other one,
That's two separate items then. Liftgate
correct.
and roll and rack.
Yeah, they kind of go together, as in why we put them together, because we're actually picking up LDH on the scene. It allows us to roll the LDH.
Yeah.
LDH is about 150 pounds a shot. And then if we have a lift gate on the back of the truck, they can literally click under. So that's how we lump those two together as being a good purchase for that. The utility terrain vehicle, one thing that we continue to see in our city, if you look at Hub City Days, that continues to expand out with large crowds. When you look at Maple Fall Fest, that continues to expand out with large crowds. And we're starting to see other events like Central Wisconsin State Fair. That's always been a big event, but something that we see. What we thought is having a utility, UTV would allow us to have that capability to do some of the response to those. And in addition to that, over the year, we would have more feasibility and flexibility in how we do it. We do have a lot of areas that are wildland fire areas in our city. I know we're an urban interface, but at the same time, we do have pockets in areas. And if you look at kind of what happened in LA, I certainly don't want to see things like that happen here. We need to get those things knocked out as soon as possible. Looking at some of our additional staffing around the area, from the hours of 8 to 5, those are the people that have that type of equipment for wildland, and they're not necessarily available all the time. So we would have some restrictions there. We don't want to be caught with not having that stuff. From 2028 to 2030 in the fire protection budget, looking at just annual training center improvements. For the EMS, again, everything there is going to be on a 3-year replacement policy. So we're basically replacing every item that would be in the EMS enterprise area. The only one that's different is in 2026, and I kind of went over the FAT money that we had. That's something that can be purchased directly out of there, but it has to be in the CIP process, and that's a training mannequin. It's a high fidelity training mannequin. That allows us to have training throughout the year. That allows us to do IVs, innovations, things like that, so that we can have that capability. Right now, we end up working with Mid-State Technical College. That mannequin comes up here about 3 days out of the year. And we feel like we need a lot more time with the mannequin and a lot more time to have that ability to do that. So not everyone can have an opportunity to be there during those 3 days. So it was something we put in ours to ask for. And I did cover the emergency management budget. A couple of the items. I would be, at that point, that's kind of my conclusion. If anybody has any questions, we fine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Going to 2027, the UTV, the cost is estimated at 55,000. Is that including equipping it, or is that simply just the cost of the UTV?
It covers the baseline or the base cost of it, which is about $28,000 to $25,000. And then the additional part would be the skid that would go on the back of it with a water tank. So we'd have water and kind of a hose reel that would be on there. And on top of it, we would also have a backboard raft so that you could actually put backboards on it. So it becomes a multi-use vehicle is what ends up happening. So we can use it for many different things within the community.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Making a motion to approve these, seeing as though we've got siren, $19,000 worth of sirens, CIP.
That was changed to,
Okay, so that is actually not in yours, it's now here.
that was just voted on to shoot to switch to that.
Okay,
Okay. it would still make a difference.
Any other comments or questions? I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, or do we need a roll call? We need a roll call.
Hanker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Gershman,
Yes.
Keel.
Yes. So that part of our work is done for this meeting. All of the roll call. Let me make a comment quick. I know we're late, but this is the Police and Fire Commission. And as the city attorney has said to me, boy, you guys have got a lot of power. I know that the city, I understand, I think pretty well, financial situation of the city, and things have been and will continue to be for a while very tight. That's not our problem, that's the city's problem. And so, for example, if you extend replacement to 3 years, but you really don't want to because the third year is a bad year for maintenance and all that stuff, but it would cost more to have a 2-year replacement cycle. It's a judgment call if it is better for protective services in the city to have a 2-year replacement cycle, and that puts you above what the city's recommendation is. That's okay, because then the city has to decide. We don't make decisions for the city. We make decisions for what's best for protective services. And then the city says, you know, we appreciate that, we understand it, but we don't have it. So then they can decide to say, no, we're gonna have to do a 3-year. Don't decide for the city. That's both chiefs.
I appreciate that, and this year, we just bought a vehicle last year, so we're good, for now, but I appreciate the sentiment, I agree with it.
Yeah. Certainly the Police and Fire Commission and the Common Council have to work together, and they're powerfully related. But our responsibilities aren't the same. Our responsibility is police and fire protection for the city of Marshfield. And we need to do that as best we can and as frugally as we can. But sometimes you gotta balance frugality and the best practices. And it might cost more. And we need to say, and then the council will have to say, we just can't do it. Well, then they say that. It's not for us to say that. Anyway, I don't know if you agree with that, Mayor, but that's the way I think it should work. All right, presentation of the 2024 Marshfield Fire Annual Reports. Now, we have both annual reports. Is there something specifically you want to go through in these annual reports?
There's one thing I would like to point out. It's kind of a fun known fact in our department. If you were to go to page 14 in there, last year we ended up having quite a year for births in our department. We had one shift that ended up having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 babies all in one shift.
What shift?
That was all on blue shift. So we had to do some.
And blue shift is day, night, what?
Blue shift, I'm sorry.
24 hours.
They work 20.
They work a 24-hour shift. Yep. All 3 shifts work 24 hours. So during that time, we had to have kind of a reflective time and move to that. But really, it was an exciting time for the department. And we kind of said, hey, these are all future firefighters. So we've been seeing some difficulty in finding some of our new recruits. And I think we kind of decided, I guess we're going to start to grow our own. So.
That is an interesting recruiting plan.
Yeah. It's going to take a little time to come to fruition, but it's definitely the long-term plan. So.
Yeah, not a bad one though.
Overall, though, a lot of work was done on this. I really got to commend Steve Backus for his work on putting everything together and everybody else who wrote the reports, and you can find the information in there. It's a big collaborative team that comes together to put this annual report each year, and I feel like it's a very good representation of our department. And
No, it is, it's nicely done. I question though, the female firefighter who obviously had the baby.
She started this all out.
Yeah, now, question, how much time did she get off?
she would get the same time that we'd have. That's all covered under her.
Yeah, and how much is that?
I would have to look back at
12
that.
weeks.
I believe 12 weeks, like 6 out of my way, thank you.
And all of the men, how much time did they get off?
I want to say there's 6 weeks. It's about half the time.
They're entitled to 12 weeks.
Are they?
Yeah, they can use 6 weeks, sick time, and I think the other 6 weeks approved time.
So both genders, in the case of an infant being born, are treated equally. Having had 3 and 2 of them twins, that's important.
Yes.
Okay,
Overall, I take any questions anybody may have on the annual report. Really appreciate us being able to do it. We did get it. We'll go to the common council and speak. And like I said, if you have any questions over the time in the future too, please feel free to reach out. We'll gladly answer any questions.
I've got one question.
Sure.
It's a problem. To my left, should actually be referred to as the chief administration.
I would absolutely agree with you.
And the same thing applies to Cindy Gates. Since we have an assistant chief, perhaps we can put another
Assistant to an assistant.
deputy assistant chief for administration.
now listen, guys. You can put any label in there you want.
You can, but
Well, I gotta be careful because Cindy does our report, so.
check that label.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I would say that Lori does a vast amount of work each year to bring all this together and make everything come. She's the heart and soul of our department, and we sincerely appreciate all of her efforts each and every day.
Well, that's why we pay her the big money.
I think she would say
How about police?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to talk about our report. First of all, Cindy, puts our reports together. She does a great job collaborating, with other members of our department to make sure that we have a report. We had a pretty exciting year this last year. I'm a dog person, so I was, really ecstatic to have Reggie come on board, our therapy dog. He is official. He is an official therapy dog. He makes a great impact on both young and old that he comes in contact with. It's been a great addition to our department. Also, our dual purpose dog, Mario, came on in October. He has been making a real impact as well, and I'm excited to see what this year brings as far as what Mario can find out there on the road. Drilling down into some of our stats that are in the report, I'd like to explain some of those. First of all, you'll see that the number of calls have stayed pretty consistently with our department. Throughout the past few years, they fluctuated very little, in my opinion. Our clearance rate has remained fairly high. It went up 2% this year to 74. And our OWI arrests have increased slightly this year. Adversely, though, you'll also notice that there's been a decline in the number of traffic stops and drug arrests. And these two are related stats because many of our drug arrests do stem from traffic stops. This decline actually surprised me a little bit. We are very intentional on productivity of our officers, and our quarterly evals do measure the number of traffic stops, arrests, and calls that they respond to. And in the past year, they've stayed consistent with department average. The department average is the only real statistic that we can compare their performance to because it's illegal to establish quotas. So that's how we monitor our officers' performance. And in drilling down in the numbers a little bit, I found that 2023 seemed to be just a bit of an anomaly. If we take that year out, you'll see there's a slight increase from COVID years up to our current time. And I didn't understand why 23 had so much more. I think last year I was pretty arrogant in thinking that it was because of our quarterly evals and intentional effort in holding people accountable, but I don't know that that was correct. One of the biggest causes that we found was that in 2024, we had 159 hours less of traffic grants that were taken. Now, traffic grants is important because that's an overtime slot that's paid back through the grant and allows us to assign officers specifically to traffic stops. In that time, the grant requires 1 traffic stop per 45 minutes. Our officers typically do a little bit better than that. It's not unreasonable that we would have 2 an hour, which accounts for almost half of that difference between 23 and 24. Drilling down even a little bit more, in 2023, we were short 1 officer, but I kept that shortage in our detective bureau, and our patrol staff stayed adequately staffed throughout the entire year. 24, we did hire 3 new officers. I think we offered the first one in April. They were still in school. They came on board in November. Training does affect our stats because we have our FTOs with the new probationers, which cuts our staffing, and it makes it appear almost as we're short staffed. And our FTOs are some of our top performers, and they're kind of taken out of the reins a little bit so that they can train our new people. I think that also affected. In addition to traffic stops, we also only had 1 drug detective. So I think that also affected our drug arrests slightly. This next year, I'm a little bit worried because our grant time has gotten even shorter. We only have Marathon County grant, which limits our grant time for traffic. But I'm also optimistic because we do have the 2nd drug officer who's very excited to take off. We have Mario, our drug dog, new drug dog. I think he's shown that he's going to make an impact as well. So I'm optimistic that some numbers will be maybe more accurate this next year, and we'll know exactly where we're at. With that, I open up to any questions. We are looking for ways to increase our effectiveness, and I'm open to questions or suggestions from the commission.
Jody, I have a question. I know we talked for a few minutes yesterday. When you look at your daily activity, how many traffic stops per day are you seeing on your shifts?
We're averaging, I think, probably only around 2 or so per officer. Obviously, that fluctuates a little bit.
2 per officer or 2 per shift?
2 per officer per shift. That makes sense. So like a shift of 6, we would expect around 12.
So I kind of want to follow up this question, and it's really honoring Steve Meek, who was a very active police person. My question for you is, do you evaluate their activity based on the number? I know you can't have a quota, but obviously there's more people in the department productive than some others. Some are going to be above average, some are going to be below average. Do you look at that on a regular basis?
Well, what we're allowed to do, and actually this is in statute, we are allowed to compare to department averages. We're bound by statute in that. So that's what we compare them to.
So if you have a patrol officer that doesn't stop anyone, right? I mean, that does happen, right?
Well, that officer would fall below our department average, and that allows us to address that issue, which we do. We don't have anybody, I think, that is at 0 anymore, but when they're below the department average, we absolutely address that issue.
And so I know you're spending some time on this, but I would like to have it as a separate agenda item, because when you look at the annual report, the number of calls is down, the degree of activity is down, stops, arrests. I think as a commission, and maybe no one agrees with me, but I would like to do a little deeper dive into that. I just think as a commission, we need to have a better understanding of this.
One of the recommendations I might make is, I know you do quarterly evaluations. I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they sound like. And it might be helpful for all of us if we knew what happened in those. And we've all had experience in doing that kind of thing, and maybe we could make.
So would you like to have all of the evals, the completed evaluations brought to commission, or you want the?
I don't think that the commission needs individual evaluations. That's getting too low in the, do you agree with me, Bill? What I would like is to see the forms and a mock-up of what one looks like. What kinds of, how do a mock-up?
We can bring that form back. We did have it here when we presented this, but that's been some time.
Yeah, and as you get older, your memory is not as good as it once was. I think what Randy is getting at is the level of accountability in the police department for patrol officers.
Okay.
Well, for all officers, I guess. One of the things that we have been concerned about over the years is accountability. And I don't want to go back to some of the things that gave us those concerns, because I think some of that stuff has improved. We're held responsible for what you guys do and how well you do it. So I don't think it hurts for us to.
When I did kind of a back of a napkin on a yellow pad, I came up with 1.3 average stops per day.
And that's in a 12-hour shift, right?
It would be a 12-hour shift with 7 guys on each shift.
Well, I don't want to get in a back and forth here, but
no, I'm just, what I'm saying is we need to have a better understanding of what's happening here.
Right, but when we're gauging how many can potentially be on a shift of average of 7, that usually is 5 or 6 overall, because people are on vacation, comp time, holiday, et cetera, et cetera. And so that the average amount of people that are actually working is less than 7 for the most part. And depending upon whether or not the department is short-staffed on patrol, like if somebody's out sick, workman's comp, or if we're obtaining a new employee and training them. So those statistics kind of change, I think, overall throughout the year. My question for Chief Goering is, has report writing become so cumbersome that it's taken patrol officers more off the road to give them opportunity to make the contacts in traffic? Because I'll just use an example. I know that Randy spoke well of me, and I greatly appreciate that. But I also noticed over the course of my career, it seemed as though there was more complexity to report writing and the amount of time we were on calls. And I'll just use an example. On mental commitments, we were tied up a good portion of the time with 2 officers, or at least minimally 1, waiting for medical clearance. I think that does play a role in taking personnel off the road to do another aspect of their daily requirements for work, to include traffic stops.
The actual report writing process isn't any more cumbersome than it ever has been. And actually, I think our department is pretty blessed in the fact that, our record specialists dictate our reports, which helps save time and those sorts of things. But you're exactly right, as far as the time on calls, our mental commitments, that's often a up to 12-hour investment in time by the time we take the call, medical clearance, and bring them to whatever approved facility that we have. Those still exist. Some of our longer investigations, anywhere from domestics to, whatever, you remember the calls that took more time.
Yeah.
Those exist, of course, but I don't know that those are things that we can really affect.
So
Yeah.
Steve's point is that the average patrol officer is taken off of the streets an extended period for certain kinds of calls.
Yes, yeah, but I think that that's been the case, for my entire career too. So I don't know that if we're comparing numbers, I think that we would have had those same challenges in other years.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think Randy brings up solid points. We're not saying it's wrong or bad or whatever.
Yeah.
We're saying we don't understand. And we need to understand. I mean, that's part of our responsibility.
And I also accept, the fact that, obviously I was wrong in why the numbers increased last year. So I obviously don't know everything either. So I think it takes a village, and together we can provide a better service to the community.
Well, educate us.
Andy, just 2 comments.
Yeah.
On traffic stops, you exclude 2019, which was a huge.
Yeah, and I don't know, that was before things got weird, but.
You take the others, for instance, 2023, you split that off. Our 6,074 is slightly above average.
Good point.
And if you take a look at the total number, it's out to be, let's see, about 19 stops a day. If you take the total number divided by 365. The second point is monitoring the radio transmissions. There are certain times of day our guys are nonstop for a variety of things. And I know that not all traffic stops get citations. Are these citations or these citations?
These are run through our CAD system, so it's dependent on our dispatchers coding it correctly, but these would be coded as traffic stops, not the number of paper that's written on the stops.
So these could be warnings.
There could be.
Okay.
This doesn't drill down into what enforcement action was taken.
Okay, is there, we're using an awful lot of time. Is that the new ambulance? Anyway. It's a big thing.
It rides very nice.
Huh?
It rides nicely.
Yeah, you gotta write it.
Yes.
Could write it in there.
Well, we should all get a ride in it.
Oh, don't wish that, Andy.
No, I mean, we should all sit in the back with a keg of beer.
Yeah.
Anyway, we need to stay focused on this, understand that the commission, for the next while is going to be asking questions and looking at the 2 of you for information that helps us understand. But I think we've gone as far with that this time, this meeting as we can. Forget it, Everett. We ain't doing it. I'm the one who wanted it done.
Sure.
So anyway, I think it's been a productive meeting. I think the 2 departments are showing more signs than I have seen before of collaborating and paying attention to each other. And that's a wonderful development. And with that, unless you have something more to bring to the assembly, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a safe vacation, Randy.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Where is he?